In the time before cities and restless voices, the world fell silent when night arrived. Crickets sang in the tall grass, owls called from the olive groves, and waves touched the shores with slow and steady rhythm. Above this stillness, a lantern of silver appeared, drifting across the heavens with calm and purpose. It was not a lantern of men, nor a simple glow in the sky. It was Selene, the goddess of the moon. Her beauty was woven from light itself. Hair like rivers of silver framed her face, and her eyes shone with the cold fire of distant stars. Robes of pale white clung to her form, shimmering as if stitched from frost. Each movement carried the stillness of eternity, for she belonged not to the earth, but to the boundless night. When the sun, her brother Helios, plunged into the western sea and the last of his fires sank below the horizon, Selene rose from her palace. It stood at the edge of the world, built from crystal and pearl, glowing faintly with the memory of starlight. Its windows opened to the dark waters of Oceanus, where day surrendered itself to night. Through those windows she stepped, her bare feet gliding over marble floors smooth as ice. Her hands stretched toward the heavens, and her lips shaped a silent vow. The world would not be left in darkness. In her presence, shadows softened, silence deepened, and dreams began to stir. Beyond the palace walls her horses waited. Their hides gleamed like polished ivory. Their manes were woven from mist, and their hooves struck sparks of silver as they pawed the clouds. Selene approached them, calm and radiant, and they lowered their proud heads before her touch. With ease born of countless nights, she ascended her chariot, a vessel of shining metal crafted to glide through the heavens. The gates of the palace swung wide. A flood of light spilled outward, announcing her passage. Slowly, steadily, the chariot rose into the vault of the sky. The land below darkened. Forests turned to shadow. Seas stretched like mirrors of black glass. Mountains sank into mystery. Yet above all, her radiance spread, cool and gentle, cloaking the world in silver. The moon had taken her throne. The night belonged to Selene. Night after night, Selene rose from her crystal halls to take her place upon the heavens. Her path was eternal, carved across the sky from the first days of creation. No mortal hand could trace it. No god could erase it, for it was written into the order of the cosmos itself. As long as the world endured, the moon would follow its silent arc, and Selene would ride as its guardian. When her chariot climbed, the earth below changed. Villages that only hours before had bustled with firelight and voices sank into slumber. Smoke drifted faintly from hearths, now fading to embers. Shepherds who had led their flocks back to pens stretched their limbs upon rough cloaks and let sleep take them. Fishermen who had returned from sea pulled nets over their shoulders and surrendered to dreams. From mountains to plains, silence deepened, broken only by the movements of creatures who knew the night as their own. Selene looked upon them all, and her light softened the darkness around them. Where forests grew thick, her glow touched the leaves until they glimmered with faint silver edges. Rivers reflected her round face, carrying her image downstream into valleys where men and women dreamed. The sea itself bowed to her, lifting its tides to meet her gaze, retreating again as she passed. Every swell, every ripple followed her rhythm. Her light was never harsh, never burning, but cool and steady. Mortals who stirred in the night often raised their eyes, and when they saw her glow above them, their hearts grew calm. Children whispered to their mothers that the goddess was watching, and sailors at sea steered their fragile boats by the silver path she laid upon the waters. She was more than a glow in the sky. She was the guardian of every dream, the unseen protector of every slumbering soul. The world of men knew her power in ways they did not always understand. Farmers planting their seeds trusted that her cycles governed the earth, for when Selene grew full, the soil seemed to quicken with hidden life. When she waned, shadows deepened and the world held its breath, waiting for her to return. Poets sang of her, weaving hymns into the stillness of night, hoping that her beams would grant them vision. Prophets, gazing upward, sought omens in her round face, believing she revealed what the days to come concealed. In her journey, Selene was never hurried. Each moment of her passage stretched into eternity, for she carried no fire to consume, no tempest to scatter. She carried silence, beauty, and a rhythm as old as time. As she glided across the stars, her presence bound the heavens together. The constellations bowed to her light, their stories shining brighter when her gaze touched them. Orion lifted his club higher beneath her glow. The Pleiades sparkled like scattered jewels, their soft blue fire mingling with her silver. Even the distant belt of the Milky Way gleamed more brightly when her chariot wheels turned across the sky. She was called by many names. To some she was mean, the measurer of months, for her face marked the passage of time itself. To others she was Phoebe, the shining one, whose radiance rivaled that of dawn. Yet in every name lay the same reverence. Selene, the eternal watcher of the night. Sometimes she lingered over lonely places, pausing her steady path. She bent her gaze upon shepherds who guarded their flocks through the hours of darkness. She watched over travelers moving silently across mountains, their torches flickering against the vastness of night. She followed ships that wandered far from their harbors, laying her light upon the waters to guide them back. None escaped her sight, for her eyes were endless, and her watch was unbroken. Not even the gods themselves could claim such constancy. Helios burned fiercely through the day, yet at dusk his flames were quenched by the sea. Eos came briefly each morning, scattering her colors, yet she vanished within moments, consumed by her brother's blaze. But Selene endured the long hours when all else was silent. She gave herself not in bursts of fire, but in the endless tide of silver light. There were whispers that even the shadows feared her. Spirits who wandered in darkness fled when her glow touched them. The restless shades of the dead, bound to Hades' kingdom, stirred uneasily when her face gazed down upon the world of the living. Yet mortals, in their sleep, felt none of this. To them her light was safety, a calm hand stretched across the vault of night. Selene's journey did not end until the horizon paled. She drove her horses until the faintest blush of dawn began to spread across the east. Then, slowly, she lowered her reins. Her steeds carried her back to the hidden palace beyond Oceanus, and her silver glow faded. The stars blinked out, one by one, surrendering their place to the fiery ascent of Helios. The cycle renewed itself, as it always had, as it always would. Yet each night, when darkness fell once more, the eternal watcher returned. She rose again, patient, unwavering, drawing her silver arc across the sky, and all the earth sank beneath her gaze into the deep stillness of dreams. Among all the tales woven around Selene's nightly passage, none was cherished more deeply than the story of her love for a mortal shepherd, Endymion. It was a tale of beauty and silence, of desire preserved in sleep, of a goddess who fell not for kings or warriors, but for a simple man whose life was bound to the earth. On one of her countless nights, when her chariot glided low above the mountains of Curia, Selene looked down upon the slopes of Mount Latmus. There, where olive groves clung to the hillsides and streams whispered through the valleys, she saw him for the first time. Endymion lay upon the earth, resting after a day of tending his flocks. The sheep slept around him, their wool pale under her glow, But it was not the flock that held her gaze. It was the shepherd himself. His beauty rivaled the statues of the gods. His hair fell in dark waves across his brow. His limbs were strong from labor, and his face bore neither pride nor vanity, but the calm serenity of one who lived close to the soil. He slept without fear, his chest rising and falling in rhythm with the earth itself. To Selene, who had gazed upon kings and heroes, upon temples and empires, this mortal seemed more radiant than any throne or crown. In the stillness of night, she felt her heart tremble. Night after night, she returned. At first, she lingered above, watching from her chariot as he slept upon the mountain slope. But soon the pull grew too great. Leaving her steeds to stand in the clouds, she descended silently to the earth. Barefoot, she crossed the grass, her robes trailing light behind her, until she stood beside the sleeping shepherd. Her hand, pale and cool as moonlit water, touched his brow. She bent and kissed his closed eyes, whispering no words, for words were not needed. He did not stir. From that night onward, Selene's journey was never complete without her secret descent to Latmus. Always she found him lying there, either beneath the open sky or sheltered within a cave when storms had passed. Always he slept, and always she came to watch over him. The gods upon Olympus soon spoke of this love. Some smiled at her devotion, but others scorned it. What was a goddess of the heavens doing in the arms of a mortal, one whose days would fade like mist in the sun? Selene, who guided the tides, who measured the months, had chosen not a ruler nor a warrior, but a shepherd who possessed nothing but his flock in his dreams. Zeus, the king of the gods, took notice. For some, he was stern and jealous, quick to punish immortals who gave too freely of themselves to men. Yet in this tale, the myths speak of a different outcome. Some say Selene begged Zeus to preserve Endymion, to shield him from the withering hand of time. Others say Zeus, moved by the goddess's devotion, granted the shepherd a fate unlike any mortal before him. Endymion was given eternal sleep. His body would not wither, his beauty would not fade, and his breath would rise and fall forever as though locked in the rhythm of a dream. He would never awaken, never speak, never age. His life became an endless slumber, untouched by time. To mortals, this may have seemed a curse. To live forever yet never wake, to dream without end, to lose the warmth of daylight and the touch of labor. But to Selene, it was a gift beyond measure. For as long as she rose into the heavens, she could descend to Latmus and find him waiting, unchanged, unbroken by the years. Every night was a reunion. Every night she pressed her lips to his sleeping face. Every night she watched the peace of his eternal dream. There are whispers that from this union came daughters, radiant as their mother, who embodied the light of the moon in its many phases. They were called the 50 daughters of Selene and Endymion, though some stories say they were not born of flesh, but of light itself, each representing a night of the lunar cycle, waxing and waning with their mother's glow. Whether of body or spirit, there were signs of a love that could not be severed by time or death. In the stillness of Latmus, mortals sometimes claimed to see the glow of a pale figure moving among the groves. Shepherds whispered that it was Selene herself, gliding to the side of her beloved. They told stories of a silver radiance that lingered upon the rocks, of sheep resting calmly when touched by her light. Travelers spoke of dreams more vivid upon the mountain slopes, dreams in which a woman with starlit eyes appeared and carried them into visions of endless night. All believed the mountain was touched by the goddess's presence, sanctified by her devotion. For Selene, the love of Endymion was unlike her bond with any god or mortal. Helios, her brother, blazed across the day in glory, admired by all yet consumed by his own fire. The gods of Olympus dined in splendor, their loves fleeting, their passions like storms. But Endymion was constant, unchanging, bound to the earth and to his endless dream. His silence was deeper than the voices of gods, and in that silence Selene found her reflection. She too was constant. She too was eternal. Their love was not in words or deeds, but in presence itself. She in the heavens, he in his sleep, joined night after night in the stillness of Latmus. Some poets called it the purest love of all. Others saw in it tragedy, for Endymion could never open his eyes to meet hers, never speak her name, never hold her in waking arms. Yet Selene did not weep. She did not rage against fate. She embraced the gift as it was, for eternity had many forms, and in this form she found contentment. So the moon's path became more than a duty across the heavens. It became a journey of devotion, each night bringing her to the slopes of Mount Latmus, each night binding her love anew. And even now, when her light drapes the mountains, when her silver glow rests upon sleeping fields, the story is remembered. The goddess still rides across the sky, and the shepherd still dreams beneath her watchful gaze. Thus the tale endures. Selene, eternal in the heavens, and Endymion, eternal in sleep, their love preserved in the rhythm of night itself. Selene's journey across the sky was not merely a passage of light. It was a weaving of influence, a quiet shaping of the world in her silver hand. As she rode her chariot night after night, her presence stirred the very elements, bending rivers, lifting tides, and awakening hidden powers within all living things. Her glow touched the earth as though the heavens themselves had sent a gentle hand to caress it, and all beneath her gaze felt the touch of eternity. Where her beams fell upon rivers, the water rose and fell with a rhythm unlike any mortal tide. Inlets and bays followed her movements, and fishermen who traveled under her light knew to trust her guidance, for she moved the seas in patterns unseen yet certain. The waves shimmered like molten silver, and the currents flowed with purpose, carrying ships safely through waters that daylight might conceal in peril. Each night, Selene's watch ensured that sailors would find harbor, that storms would calm, that the dark waters would reflect her gentle authority rather than the chaos of the deep. In the forests, her influence was subtler but no less profound. Trees bent slightly toward her light, leaves sparkling as if dusted with frost. Creatures of the night, who thrived under her radiance, moved with confidence and calm. Owls glided silently beneath her gaze. Foxes crept through glimmering underbrush, and deer paused upon silver-lit clearings, sensing the goddess above and finding reassurance in her presence. Even the smallest flowers opened to the moonlight, releasing scent into the night air, a perfume that seemed to whisper the secret language of dreams. Selene's power extended beyond the tangible. Dreams, fragile and fleeting, were her domain. Mortals who slept under her light often felt a shift in their thoughts, a deepening of visions, a stirring of the imagination. Some dreamt of lands they had never seen, mountains rising into unknown skies, seas reflecting starlight not of this world. Others dreamt of the future, glimpses of events yet to unfold, or of the past, long-forgotten memories revived in the glow of her pale beams. Children slept more peacefully when the moon shone, and elders found that the passing of the night carried wisdom and clarity upon the currents of sleep. Farmers knew her cycles, though they did not always understand them. Her waxing and waning governed planting, sowing, and harvest. Crops seemed to grow in harmony with her phases, sprouting first under her tender light, ripening as her fullness illuminated the earth, and fading gently as her retreating glow whispered the promise of renewal. To them, the moon was more than a goddess. It was a guide, a quiet hand shaping the rhythm of life. Poets and seers honored her. Under her watch, they composed verses that captured the fleeting beauty of night, the hidden truths of the human heart, the subtle power of silence. Those who sought visions, who wished to peer into the unknown, looked to her glow for illumination. Selene did not give visions lightly, for they were not meant to be wielded as power, but understood as threads of the eternal tapestry, fragments of a universe far greater than mortal comprehension. Her power even touched the realm of mortals' passions. Lovers whispered names beneath her beams, trusting that the moon would protect their affections, shield them from prying eyes, and preserve the fragile spark of desire. Some said that a glance cast under Selene's light carried weight, that promises spoken beneath her glow held an almost sacred binding, woven into the fabric of night itself. Selene's light also extended to the realm of the wild. Pan, god of forests and mountains, often called upon her radiance when he moved through the wilderness with his nymphs and creatures of the wild. She answered his silent summons, spreading her beams across groves and meadows, illuminating hidden paths, revealing secret streams, and allowing the dance of the wild to unfold beneath her care. The night became a stage, her light a soft, unifying presence, where the mortal and divine intertwined. Even the tides of emotion, it was said, bent subtly to her rhythm. Lovers longing, warriors grieving, children dreaming, all felt a strange and soothing calm under her gaze. Her glow encouraged patience, reflection, and contemplation. When the world grew restless, she did not command it. She coaxed it gently, with the slow certainty of eternal cycles. Her influence was not confined to the earth. From Olympus to the furthest reaches of the heavens, the stars themselves seemed to respond to her passage. Constellations, fixed though they were, appeared to shine brighter when she passed near. Orion lifted his club, the Pleiades shimmered like scattered silver fire, and the belt of the Milky Way seemed to ripple in harmony with her movement. Even the gods watched, for Selene's presence reminded them that night was not absence, but a living, breathing realm of its own, shaped by her quiet hand. Selene's power was both gentle and absolute. Mortals slept under her watch, the oceans followed her path, forests shimmered with her touch, and even Olympus acknowledged her influence. She was neither tyrant nor servant. She moved in the spaces between, shaping the night with subtlety, patience, and quiet authority. Her domain was not won by fire or conquest, but by presence, constancy, and devotion to the rhythm of eternity. And yet, even as her power spread across the world, she bore no pride in it. She did not descend to boast or command. She only traveled her path, moved by the rhythm of the night, bound to the moon's endless cycle. It was this constancy, more than any act of creation or display of strength, that made her revered by mortals, feared in whispers by spirits, and respected by gods. As the hours passed and the moon climbed higher in the heavens, her light stretched farther. Valleys glimmered, rivers gleamed, ocean sparkled. Each village, each solitary shepherd, each traveler under the stars, felt her presence without knowing why. Dreams grew vivid, hearts were calmed, and the world held its breath beneath her silent watch. By the time the first hint of dawn colored the horizon, Selene had traced the arc of the night sky from horizon to horizon. Her horses, Phoebe and Ethon, slowed their pace, returning her to her palace at the edge of the world. Her light dimmed as she entered her crystal halls, but the echoes of her passage remained. Tides continued to rise, fields shimmered with dew, and mortals dreamed on, touched by the quiet power of the moon. Thus, the powers of Selene extended beyond mere illumination. She governed rhythm, nurtured growth, guided travelers, deepened dreams, and united heaven and earth in a subtle harmony that endured night after night, generation after generation. She was eternal, constant, and unseen, shaping the world not with fire or fury, but with silver light, calm patience, and the quiet dominion of the night. Selene was not alone in the sky. Though she ruled the night with quiet authority, she belonged to a family older than the ages themselves, a lineage of light and power that stretched from the earliest dawn to the farthest horizon. Her brother Helios, who carried the sun across the sky each day, blazed with fire and strength unmatched. Each morning, he rose from his golden palace in the east, his chariot drawn by steeds of flame, and his radiant light chased away shadows, bathing the world in warmth and color. Yet Helios' brilliance was intense and consuming. It seared the eye and scorched the earth, powerful enough to awaken life, but too fierce to cradle it. The rivers, the mountains, the forests, everything trembled beneath his passage. And so it fell to Selene, who followed the night's slower rhythm, to soothe what her brother ignited. She softened the shadows, lifted the darkness with her glow, and created a mirror to his fire, reflecting his brilliance in gentler tones. Between them moved their sister, Eos, the dawn, a figure of fleeting beauty who bridged night and day. She painted the horizon in delicate hues of rose, amber, and gold, scattering light upon hills, rivers, and cities alike. Her ascent was swift, barely a pause in the eternal rhythm, but it carried meaning. She was the herald of transition, the breath that reminded the world of the harmony between two extremes. Helios could not follow night. Selene could not rule day. Eos moved silently in between, the gentle mediator of their cosmic cycle. Selene observed them from her high place in the heavens, her silver robes glimmering beneath the stars. She did not envy her brother's fire, nor resent her sister's speed. Instead, she understood the balance that bound them all together. Without Helios, the earth would languish in frost. Without Eos, night would extend endlessly, threatening to freeze the hearts of mortals. And without her, the world would tremble under the extremes, lacking calm, reflection, and the subtle guidance that only the night could offer. It was said that Helios sometimes watched her with both admiration and unease. He blazed across the sky, his golden light trailing behind him like a banner of power, and yet he could not move the world as she did. He could illuminate the earth, but he could not lull it to rest. He could awaken passions, inspire ambition, even scorch hearts with desire, but he could not sustain dreams or calm fear. Only Selene, with her patient silver glow, could do this, and he understood it, even if he did not always acknowledge it aloud. Eos, too, was aware of her sister's quiet power. She rose each morning to color the sky, scattering her light over oceans and mountains, and she would pause for the briefest instant to admire Selene's reflection in the world below. The valleys gleamed with silver before the sun reached them. The rivers shone with the memory of her passage. Even the birds and beasts that awoke with the dawn carried traces of her glow in their eyes and movements. Eos recognized that Selene's influence lingered longer than her own, subtler yet enduring, and she accepted it with grace. The harmony between them, however, was not always so serene. Helios' fire was proud and relentless. When the sun blazed too fiercely, Selene's moonlight struggled to temper it. There were nights when the world seemed caught between extremes, a storm of light clashing with a tide of darkness, the heavens quivering under the tension. In such times, Selene rode her chariot with deliberate care, easing her horses along a path that would not anger her brother, yet still preserve the calm of the sleeping world below. Eos, for her part, moved with gentle swiftness, rising and falling like a breath, smoothing the edges where night met day. In the rare hours when the three crossed paths, dawn brushing against lingering night, Helios' fire beginning its ascent while Selene's glow receded, they created spectacles that mortals would one day call twilight. Colors that defied description painted the skies. Hills and waters bathed in fleeting hues of silver, gold, and rose. Birds paused in flight. Waves hesitated on the shore, and mortals caught glimpses of the sacred balance, unaware of the eternal forces behind it. Selene's role in this celestial family extended beyond mere balance. She bore the memory of night itself, of shadow, silence, and reflection. Where Helios brought warmth and illumination, she brought coolness and contemplation. Where Eos offered transition, she provided continuity. She was the thread that connected the realms of darkness and light, the rhythm that allowed life to flourish in both, the mirror in which the world could see itself without being blinded by brilliance. Even the stars acknowledged her authority. As she rode across the heavens, they shimmered in quiet deference, arranging themselves to complement her path. Constellations shone more brightly in her presence, their shapes clearer, their stories unfolding with greater clarity. Orion lifted his club in salute. The Pleiades sparkled like a cluster of small candles, as if to light her way. The Milky Way stretched like a silver river, carrying her reflection across the cosmos. All of creation, divine and mortal, recognized her part in the family of light. In moments of stillness, Selene would descend near the horizon to watch the world bathe in the interplay of her siblings' power. The seas glimmered where Helios' fire kissed the waves, yet they shimmered with soft silver where she lingered. Valleys and forests caught the first blush of Eos dawn while still reflecting the memory of night. Cities, mountains, rivers, and plains all existed in the subtle balance between fire and reflection, between speed and patience, between brilliance and calm. Mortals, sensing these rhythms without understanding them, built temples and altars to honor the family of light. Some offered prayers to Helios for warmth and strength, to Eos for beginnings, and to Selene for protection, dreams, and the quiet guardianship of night. Festivals were held under her silver beams, celebrations timed to her cycles, sacrifices offered not for power or conquest, but for harmony, balance, and the blessing of the moon's touch upon the world. Selene's devotion to balance was not a burden, but a choice. She moved each night with purpose, aware of her responsibility to both the world below and the cosmos above. Her chariot traced a perfect arc across the sky, each beat of her horse's hooves measured, each movement precise, as though she conducted a silent symphony of light. She was patient, enduring, and unwavering, the calm at the center of a universe in motion. Even in her solitude, she was never lonely. The presence of Helios and Eos reminded her that power need not be solitary. Each complemented the other. Helios' fire, Eos' transition, Selene's reflection. Together, they maintained the cosmic order, each indispensable, each shaping the heavens in ways that mortals could only perceive through shadow, light, and the rhythm of days and nights. And so, night after night, Selene continued her path. She rose from the horizon, carried her silver light across the sleeping world, and returned to her crystal palace at the edge of the world only when the first blush of dawn approached. The eternal dance of her family unfolded without end. Fire and reflection, speed and patience, brilliance and calm. Her light, soft yet certain, reminded all who saw it, whether mortal, immortal, or spirit, that the universe thrived not in extremes alone, but in harmony, balance, and the careful measure of those who understood the power of night. Selene, the the silent sister of Helios and Eos, remained the eternal arbiter of this cosmic dance, a presence of grace, patience, and enduring wisdom. Though Selene was revered for her knightly journeys, for her love of Endymion, and for her role among the family of light, there were aspects of her being that mortals rarely glimpsed. She moved not only across the sky, but also through hidden corridors of time and fate, weaving stories invisible to the ordinary eye. She held secrets older than cities, older than kings, older even than the oldest oaks in the mountains. These were the hidden myths of Selene, tales of power, mystery, and subtle dominion. One of the oldest whispers spoke of her union with Pan, the god of wild places, forests, and untamed music. The stories were seldom told openly, for they were not like the grand epics of Olympus. They were quiet, intimate, and secret. Pan, with his wild laughter, his hair of leaves, and the crooked pipes of his song, was drawn to Selene's serene presence. He, who moved with chaos, found peace in her calm. She, who traveled with order, found delight in his freedom. It was said that on nights when the forests were cloaked in silver, Selene descended to hidden glades where the trees bent to her light. There Pan awaited, pipes in hand, summoning melodies that carried upon the wind. She walked among him, trailing her silvery robes over moss and stone, listening to the music of creation itself. The night became a stage for their union, a blending of wild and celestial, earth and heavens. In these moments, the forest shimmered not with ordinary moonlight, but with a rare magic, soft and undisturbed, marking the hidden intimacy of goddess and god. There were other tales, more elusive, in which Selene walked among mortals in secret. Disguised as a maiden of the night, she wandered villages and temples, touching those who were lost, guiding those who were in doubt, blessing the dreaming, and guarding the vulnerable. Sometimes she carried gifts, a silver token placed upon a threshold, a whispered dream of courage, a sudden insight into a path yet unseen. Mortals would awaken with hearts inexplicably light, unaware that a goddess had passed among them, leaving no trace but her subtle influence. Some myths spoke of her role in the cycles of life and death. Selene was said to accompany souls in the quiet hours, guiding them with her soft light when darkness threatened to overwhelm. She did not wield Hades' power, nor claim dominion over the dead, but she brought serenity to those caught between the worlds, illuminating paths invisible to the living eye. In this way, she became a bridge between realms, a custodian of balance not only in the physical world but in the spiritual one. The moon herself held mysteries within her phases, mysteries that Selene carried with knowledge and care. Each crescent and full moon was said to be a chapter of her secret wisdom. She measured not only time for mortals, but possibilities, choices, and potentialities. Some mortals who studied her cycles with patience claimed to see patterns in human life reflected in her waxing and waning. Those who understood these hidden rhythms were said to gain insight into love, destiny, and the subtle workings of fate. Even in Olympus, there were stories of her hidden deeds that few dared to speak aloud. Selene was known to intervene subtly in the affairs of gods, smoothing tensions, tempering tempers, and guiding decisions without acclaim or notice. It was said that disputes among the deities sometimes ended not with thunder or wrath, but with her silent presence, a pale radiance that reminded all of the patient, enduring rhythm of the cosmos. Yet perhaps the most poignant of her hidden myths was her solitude, her quiet observation of time passing over mortals and immortals alike. While gods and men sought glory, wealth, or vengeance, Selene observed the delicate unfolding of life. She watched children grow into youth, youth into elders, cities rise and fall, empires flourish and crumble, and through it all, she remained a constant, a calm mirror to the chaos of existence. Her hidden myth was one of vigilance and care, of quiet love for the world and its rhythms, uncelebrated yet profoundly powerful. There were nights, the myths say, when she would wander far from her path, seeking places where the world seemed forgotten. She visited deserts where the wind sculpted the sands, mountains where snow and stone intertwined in eternal patterns, and deep oceans where no light had ever reached. In each of these lonely corners, she left traces of her presence, a shimmer on the waves, a glint on the rocks, a gentle illumination of the night air. In this way, Selene's reach extended to the farthest boundaries of existence, touching what was hidden, unknown, or overlooked. It is also whispered that she sometimes carried messages between gods and mortals, subtle guidance encoded in dreams, omens reflected in moonlight, or sudden inspiration felt in quiet moments. Her interventions were never loud, never commanding, yet they shaped events in ways profound and enduring. Kings and sages who believed they acted alone were, in fact, often following paths lit by her subtle hand. Selene's hidden myths remind mortals and gods alike that not all power is loud or triumphant. True strength may reside in patience, in constancy, in the ability to observe and guide without recognition. Her secret deeds, her quiet unions, her unseen guidance, all formed a tapestry of influence that endured beyond the reach of human memory or the boasts of Olympus. As the night stretched on and her chariot rolled across the heavens, her light continued to touch every corner of the earth. Hidden valleys, remote seas, secret forests, and the hearts of mortals all fell beneath her gaze. Her hidden myths were carried in silver threads across the world, a quiet symphony of mystery, devotion, and cosmic care. And though few spoke her name for these deeds, those who slept beneath her watch felt their subtle power. A dream realized, a fear soothed, a hope preserved. By the time Selene returned to her crystal palace at the edge of the world, the hidden threads of her influence were complete. Mountains had been illuminated, rivers had reflected her wisdom, souls had been guided, and the night itself had been enriched with secrets known only to her. She rested not with the satisfaction of triumph, but with the quiet knowledge that the universe was a little more ordered, a little more serene, a little more alive, for her presence and her hidden deeds. Thus, even beyond love, family, and the visible powers of her light, Selene's hidden myths endured. They spoke of a goddess whose influence stretched far and wide, whose wisdom was encoded in silence, whose care encompassed all that slept, all that dreamed, and all that moved unseen in the night. She was eternal, secret, and profound, a moonlit force whose full story could never be told in entirety, yet whose effect was woven into the fabric of the world itself. As the final hours of night stretched across the world, Selene continued her journey, riding her chariot with the quiet dignity that had defined her for countless ages. Her silver light touched every hill and valley one last time before the horizon softened with the faint glow of dawn. Every stream shimmered, every leaf glistened, every dream lingered beneath her gaze, as if the world itself paused to honor her passage. Even now, the memory of Endymion rested upon the slopes of Latmus. His eternal slumber remained undisturbed, a symbol of devotion unbroken by time or fate. Selene's chariot paused over him briefly, the soft silver radiance washing over the sleeping shepherd like a gentle hand, whispering love and constancy into the world. Though he did not wake, though he never spoke, the bond between them endured beyond words, beyond mortal comprehension, eternal in its simplicity and depth. Her influence lingered in the hidden corners of the earth. Rivers that had reflected her light in the night now shimmered faintly with the memory of her passage. Forests that had bent to her glow stood in gentle calm. Even the smallest flowers carried the faint silver trace of her care, as though night itself had imprinted upon them. Those who slept beneath her beams awoke with hearts lighter than before, unaware of the goddess who had guarded them, whose presence had soothed fear, nurtured dreams, and preserved the delicate balance of the night. The stars, her companions, began to fade as dawn approached, yielding their brilliance to the fiery ascent of Helios. Yet even as light overtook night, a portion of Selene remained. In every reflection of moonlight upon water, in every pale glimmer caught in a window, in every memory of dreams nurtured by her glow, she endured. The world carried her imprint, subtle but eternal, a reminder that the night and its guardian would always return. The hidden myths, the secret deeds, the whispered influence over mortals and gods alike, all became threads in the larger tapestry of the cosmos. Each cycle of her journey reminded the world of rhythm and balance, of reflection and calm, of love preserved in silence, and of power exercised with patience. Her story, though rarely spoken aloud in its entirety, remained alive in the motions of the heavens and the quiet hours of night. And so, as the first light of morning brushed the horizon, Selene returned to her palace beyond Oceanus, a place of crystal and shadow, of calm and solitude. Her chariot rested, her horses settled in gentle starlight, and she herself reflected upon the night just past. Every dream she had guarded, every life she had touched, every secret myth she had enacted, flowed together in her mind like a silver river of endless stories. Though day would rise and the world would bustle with light, her influence was not lost. The earth would remember her passage, the stars would recall her path, and the hearts of mortals who had slept beneath her watch would carry a subtle sense of calm, a gentle echo of her care. Even in absence, she was present. Even when unseen, her light endured. And so the night remained eternal, as did Selene. Her chariot would rise again. Her glow would stretch across sleeping valleys and glimmering seas, and her story of love, of power, of hidden myths would continue in quiet, endless cycles. The moon, the silver guardian, the eternal watcher, remained. She was constant, unchanging, patient, and serene. As the world awakened beneath the growing light of Helios, the echoes of her night endured in dreams, in rivers, in forests, and in hearts. For those who took a moment to look up, to pause and remember the hush of night, the silver glow of Selene would shine eternal, a reminder of constancy, love, and the gentle, enduring power of the moon. Thus ends this night, and yet it never truly ends. Selene's path continues, unbroken, serene, eternal. And the world sleeps once more beneath her light, carrying the memory of the goddess who rides the heavens, silent, patient, and forever luminous.